1885, and first light, when people first looked through it, was in August of 1885. The telescope is quite of a class of rather famous telescopes. The lens was made by Alvin Clark and Sons, and they are the premier lens makers from the late 1800s. The rest of the telescope and the pier and the original dome, this is not the original dome, and another instrument downstairs were all made by Warner and Swasey. So for decades, I've just been calling it the Clark, because astronomers know Clark lenses. But the more I've learned about Warner and Swasey and their role in telescope making and in astronomy in this country at that time, I think I should call it the Clark-Warner-Swasey telescope. They're pretty rare to have functioning Clark-Warner-Swasey, well, Clark lenses in a telescope. There are still some around. There are some that you can look through. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably less than 24 Clark telescopes that are available for people to look through. There's more in museums and probably even more stashed in storage areas someplace. But it's really quite a treasure to have this instrument and to have it here in Greencastle. So after the concert, you're free to look at the exhibits downstairs. I know some of you have been here, perhaps some have not been here. I don't think we're going to get to look at Jupiter. That was my idea, was that for half an hour you could wander and look at the exhibits while I cleared, Diana helped me clear the chairs out and lined up the telescope. I don't think that's happening. But I want to thank you for coming.
Yes.
So with that,
I would like to thank you, Dr. Kurtzman, for inviting us. It's really such a wonderful opportunity to hear sound in this space. That's something you kind of obsess about as you play, because every space sounds really different. And it's quite difficult to find a telescope dome just hanging out for you to go into and play. I know the Griffith Observatory would not have liked us to sneak in there. And from the moment we first started rehearsing here, we've just been really excited, actually.
Of course.
Yeah.
But what greater place to have the community come together
Yes.
and then experience something. Has anybody ever been in a dome with an antique telescope listening to two flute players? I doubt it. Statistical anomaly. We'll start the concert today as soon as our guests come up. I'll tell you a little bit about Kate and myself. Forgive me, I'll tell the story again of how we met. I always do.
There's a lot of stories.
But I'm originally from, I was born in Maui, Hawaii, and lived in the island of Molokai, which is the most, not the most, the second most rural place in the Hawaiian Islands. Kaha'alawi, Nihi'au, many of you might know if you visited Hawaii or researched our islands. Nihi'au was privately bought in the 19th century, and to this day it was, I think the family was called the Robinson family. To this day, tourists are not allowed to go on Nihi'au. We speak Hawaiian and it practiced the old ways, religion, culture, language. And it was sort of the Robinson's family's intuition that the Hawaiian culture might become an endangered species if we don't do something. So they bought that privately. If you are of Hawaiian ancestry, you have to prove your lineage. It is a very strict thing and a very serious culture. Molokai, we're just anti-development. Many of the people who were on our island, like Mr. Walter Ritty, were the surfers in the 1960s that took their surfboards. At that time, the United States government used to use our islands for bombing practice. And on sacred ground with all of our ancestors' bones buried, multiple times, multiple islands. So this one time, Walter Ritty, who helped raise us on Molokai, took a bunch of his friends, his surfer friends. They surfed over to the island next to Maui. If you've been to Molokini, it's right next to it, called Kaha'alawi. And they single-handedly stopped the U.S. military from bombing practice. It got so much press in the world. Those surfers today are still lauded, if they're still alive. Walter's still kicking and doing his proactive work. So that's who I am. So how the heck did I meet this beautiful woman?
Well, I grew up here, and I used to take piano lessons in that house. Nancy McFarland.
Yeah.
And I believe her husband was a professor of some sort of math. yeah, I started taking music lessons really early on, and then eventually took them at Pa. And I was just a weird kid that just wanted to play flute. That was it. I still really like to play, and we still play all the time, actually. This could be a normal Friday for us, actually, just without the dough.
She did what most Midwesterners do, which is as soon as you graduate high
I
school,
moved 5,000 miles away.
move
to
as
Long
far
Beach,
away as
California.
possible to California, and
still-
that's where we met in our
I still
undergrad
love
years.
Long Beach. It's a great place. It was really fun. Yeah.
My career for the last 20 years, besides being an orchestral player, I'm one of the rare people in this country that knows how to make these instruments. So I'm one of the few certified people, hi, welcome, few certified people to restore the flutes, gold flutes that are up to $150,000. You don't want to mess that up. And after all of this time, you know, we buy different instruments because our teachers tell us, you have to upgrade in order to get to the next step, you have to do this. Well, about 13 years ago, my muramatsu, which is this flute, I saved for 3 years and had 3 different jobs in computer work, and I finally bought it. And then 13 years ago, when I was with Caitlin, we took a trip to Chicago to visit her brother. Someone broke into our car. They broke every single window in our van, and they stole all of our luggage. My flute, this flute was in there, and it was stolen. So I had to, at the height of my powers, after finishing my master's degree, after being in the symphony, after getting all of my life sorted out, the instrument that gave me all of that was taken away. Until Friday the 13th of this last February, I get a call.
Day before your birthday.
Day before my birthday, I'm sitting with a gold version of this at my desk, which is $70,000. And the president of this company gives me a call because he's my good friend and he trained me and all of that. And he says, Micah, I think we found your flute. And I go, what? And he says, you wouldn't believe this, but some guy just emailed us with his real name, a picture of himself with your flute. He got a close-up of the serial number, just everything. Also in that picture was his desk, which had Rolex watches on it, and rings, and the tools that we use in our trade to melt down silver and all of this. So he gave all of this to the president of my company. President immediately calls me, he says, what do you want me to do? And my first instinct, which wasn't in the banner graphic, was, I have 2 7-foot-tall Italian friends up in Chicago. We can take care of this really quick. But what many of you don't know, which is not in the paper, my grandfather was one of the first African-American police officers in the LA Police Department. He went all the way up in the detectives. He was in the DA's office. So for better or for worse, our police force has technology that we don't even know of that they can use to get things back. The problem is, I didn't know this, statute of limitations in the state of in Illinois is only 3 years for stolen things. So 13 years, they pretty much said, there's nothing we can do, you know. And I said, but what if it goes on Facebook Marketplace? And he goes, I think we could do something. 4 days, they were trying to get a warrant, didn't come. The guy got antsy, put this flute on Facebook Marketplace, and that was what got my flute back in my hand. The officers met him. He was red in the face. I can't, but this is mine. I bought it fair and square from an outlet center. I lost $1,500. And they just let the toddler do his thing. And at the end they go, that's all in well and good, sir, but we are going to repossess this flute. By the way, would you like to discuss any of those rings and the watches that you sent to the Muramatsu company? He was much more amenable to give my flute back. I drove 8 hours, or 8 o'clock in the morning, drove to the police station. It was sort of like Shawshank Redemption, if you've seen that movie, when he puts on the LP of Mozart. So the first thing I did, I looked at my case, my fingerprints were still on it, which means that whoever stole it wasn't that man. Whoever stole it just kept it in a closet or under their bed for 13 years until the heat was down. Then they sold it to one of these outlet centers for minimal. The outlet center makes a huge profit by selling it to a middleman. The middleman, unfortunately, wasn't smart enough to Google the serial number because my instrument was listed as stolen all over the internet. Because of all of those miracles, it's back in my hand today, and I'm very grateful to have my
And
child.
how long did it take to restore it? A month?
This is the thing. So Muramatsu sent me all of the parts. I've been restoring people's instruments for 20 years. This was the first time I got to put all of my mature powers of restoration into my first instrument. And it sounds better than anything I've ever played on. Hopefully, we'll be able to demonstrate that. So, let's get to our first piece. I wanted to start it with fireworks for you all. The piece I'm going to play with Caitlin is Mendelssohn's Scherzo from A Midsummer Night's Dream from Shakespeare. I actually wrote down a quote because I didn't know this part. Check this out. So if you are an aficionado of classical music, you probably know that Mendelssohn was known as the second Mozart, genius kid. He wrote this whole piece when he was 17 years old, which is just, I just hate him for it. To have that much genius so young. I wrote down the part in the Shakespeare that this movement that we're going to play for you is based off of. It's the beginning of the fairy scene in Midsummer Night's Dream with Oberon and Titania, and it's all about creating this atmosphere of fairies very quickly, like swarming around. And I have the imagination when I'm going to play this piece that we're going to fill our notes and they're going to swirl around this telescope. The words that Mendelssohn was inspired by: over hill, over dale, through brush, through briar, over park, over pale, through flood, through fire. I do wander everywhere, swifter than the moon's sphere. How appropriate for an observatory.
In the rain.
In the rain. All right, this is the Scherzo from Midsummer Night's Dream. That's the famous solo at the end. Where do we find the air?
Exactly.
Every wife will say, my husband has enough hot air.
That's a strategy too. But really, as I got older, I just leaned back and have more of this remembrance of what we call kumus, or teachers in the Hawaiian language, what they taught us, and it's very different from other cultures and perspectives. So, as much as that you can glean from today, I attribute that to just the Hawaiian way.
chorus of the Los Angeles Philharmonic for decades, something close to 40 years. In our culture, in Hawaiian culture, it's really important the older we get to honor our elders, because many of the stories were not written down. Most of the world comes from oral tradition. Think back in Western civilization, the Greek civilization, we have the Odyssey and the Iliad. Do you know the amount of time it took to train a young person just to have the mental capacity to recite something perfectly, to be the keeper of the flame for the next generation? Anybody play the telephone game? It's not 100%, but we improve upon it. And those people who are chosen in the Hawaiian culture, for example, kupunas is the name of the teacher. Their job is to teach a very number of things: hula, dance, mele, songs, oli, chants, the stories of the old times. And even though they might seem superstitious to us in 2026 now, a lot of archaeology is showing, and now the genetic genome, all of our genetic human genome is complete, so we can trace the lineage of people. The Pacific Islanders, really diverse. There's evidence of people, what was that movie a long time ago? Don Tiki was the name, which archaeologists were trying to prove that people from South America, Chile, were part of one of many mass migrations across the Pacific. They landed and discovered the New World, and then they made trade between Hawaii and Tahiti and Guam and Samoa. Our languages closely linked together, but our stories are all different, but all of us have these commonalities. If we don't pay attention to the old stories in a time in which it was really, really important to get your facts straight, because you would lose all of that ancestral knowledge, then all would be lost. In Hawaii, I constantly bore my wife with this all the time, but it's really serious in Pacific cultures. If you do not manage your food on that island, think Moana, then everybody perishes. Think Easter Island. They cut down all the trees, and then what happened? The entire civilization was wiped off. So for our culture, it's really important to preserve literacy, to preserve the oral tradition, to not judge the old versus the new, but take the old into the new and develop it into what's important for the contemporary time. So what the heck does this have to do with Mozart?
I don't know, you're just talking, but I'm okay with that.
If you give a professor a chance, I will expound. Mozart, a lot of us from the movies, from our schooling, we think that Mozart was the genius. Did you all know about his older sister, Anna Maria Nannerl? I think she was way better. Way better. But because of the roles of women during that time, her job was to get married, to collect money from that dowry, and then that was the extent of her role.
She's also less crazy.
But she, more importantly, I don't think so.
From a number of illnesses.
Mozart and his older sister, he called her Nannerl, we have the collections of their notes back and forth together. So when you study history, you realize, oh my goodness, there's so much like us. How on earth did they have the attention span? How on earth did they... It's the human story. It's what I was talking about of what we worship, what we find important in Hawaiian culture. For me, these are some of his early works, these early duets. Mozart notoriously hated the flute. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. I have a Baroque flute. The Baroque flute is just a stick, and you drill holes in it, and the fingerings of that flute, which is the first original flute, are completely the opposite of these. So I sometimes will give my students my Mozart flute, and they go, oh, and they go, oh. It's very difficult to play. Well, I don't believe that, because when you hear some of these duets that we're going to play, there's some of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written. Flute players don't play them. Violinists play them much more because Mozart was a violinist. His father, Leopold, was a famous violin teacher. I want to bring some of the old here in 2026, and I want to ask you guys afterwards how old it sounds like. I think that any level of genius at any stage, there's that commonality, that common thread. And if we can just encourage that in our young people, just to have that rather than, well, you have to learn this specific way, and you have to believe these specific, and it's not about that. Please put your phones down. Develop discipline to care about your community and your legacy. I think you can hear all of that in these pretty little tunes from this little spoiled boy, who in my opinion wasn't as good as his sister.
Just more published.
Yeah. We're gonna play from his opus number 4, the first one.
Okay, you wanna repeat?
Yeah. Tell me what you think of this. Okay. that has been written for the Greencastle Flute Choir, which I founded here. Michael Shelley is the professor's name, and he's the head of the theory department at Butler University. So we're premiering his piece with our group. The first half will be dedicated to showing you exactly what this instrument can do, but no constraints anymore. So I was ready to just go, it's the second half of my life, time to be more. And then I got this back, I was like, I take it all back, I'm a flute player. So I'll be playing all sorts of crazy things, bringing out really talented young people as well to feature the good work that we're doing in Greencastle. So I hope you join us. It's June 3rd is my concert at Gobin Church, always free to the community. And I hope you can help me let our community know about those concerts as well. Thank you, Dr. Mary Kurtzman, for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Kurtzman.
you. Thank you all for coming out and giving us a test run of Duets in the Dome. I was just sitting there during that last one thinking, this has never, to my knowledge, happened in this room. This telescope has been here 141 years now, and it's just cool to have music in this dome. I thought it sounded wonderful.
We should take it to other observatories just to.
Make them jealous.
Wow.
Absolutely our pleasure, and I'll commune with the telescope a little later in Hawaiian.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh,